So I finally have my huge South American, Central American tank in place right over here.
Sweet.
Ready to go. All I got to do is get the thing set up, so I'm going to take you along for the ride as I do that. Here we go. So if you haven't watched my videos for a little while, then you might not remember that Alcatraz, which is over here, used to actually be over here where my new South American, Central American tank is. It's a huge tank. I'm really excited to get it set up. Some of the work I already did, like the sump. And I was gonna do a video on me setting up the sump, but I know my limitations and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, and a sump was super intimidating to me. And I knew I would make mistakes, but I knew if I made a video while I was setting this thing up, I'd make even more of them.
Dumb.
And that's something I just didn't want to risk. And I knew it would take me like 3 times as long. But anyway, let's get to it. My friend Doug and I went down to the depot to get this tank from Custom Aquariums, load it onto his trailer and get it home. The forklift driver wasn't enthused when we walked in the door and seemed maybe a little rude. When asked if I could video him loading it onto the trailer, he just said,
"No, follow me."
So we did. Once he saw how big the tank was though, he was like, "So this is an aquarium? Cool, what are you gonna put in it?" I just said, "Fish, dumbass." I'm just kidding. I told him about the American cichlids going in here, and he was a totally different guy than the one who greeted us so curtly at the door. And look at Doug, expertly using an impact driver to get these 1 million screws out so we could take the panels off and make sure the tank was in perfect condition. Once I saw the actual tank and how huge it was, I was even shocked. And I'd already marked the size of it on the floor and built the stand frame for it. Still, it blew me away. Look, Doug's a smart guy who's equipped for any situation at any time. Kinda like MacGyver, if you even know who that is. And he thought of shining a flashlight into the glass to look for any scratches or cracks. Brilliant. And none as expected. Back home, my neighbors Matt and Casey and my other friend who admires me so much that he also goes by the name Dave, helped to get the tank and sump unpackaged. Unloading the sump first, piece by piece, and I can feel my anxiety growing just thinking about setting the sump up for the first time. So many opportunities to flood my house with all this plumbing. But oh well, that's a problem for future Dave. Present day Dave just has to worry about getting this 700-pound glass aquarium into the house and onto the stand. And let me say that Custom Aquariums wanted to protect this against any possible disasters. We actually dropped a house on this thing, and not a scratch, but the house was in shambles. I rented these suction cups to make the move a lot easier. Actually, let me say that this tank would still be on the trailer if we hadn't used these. If you have a really heavy tank, then these suction cups are a must. Everyone's always a little skeptical that they'll hold until they actually use them. Then they sing their praises. Check us out. Does that look heavy to you? I mean, that drop off from the trailer to the ground isn't very far, but it sure feels that way when you're carrying this beast. But even with that rough spot stepping off the trailer, no one died during the move. Excellent. Inching our way to the doorway. Fortunately, it doesn't have to go very far. The stand is just patiently waiting on the other side of the front door. That's right, this tank will be the first thing that anyone sees when they enter the Chateau de Cichlid Charmer. And check these out. Tiny dollies. The same ones I used to move Alcatraz and my 180 to different spots in the house. Video link for that is in the upper right corner. Even with all my Batman gadgets, it was still really hard to move. I put the camera on a small tripod on the counter and helped out. And that's when this happened. My neighbor's son decided it was time to point the camera in a totally different direction without us knowing. So I didn't get any footage of the tank being lifted onto the stand. Oh well, I'm not going to take the tank down and recreate it for you, that's for sure. But here it is, all in one place. And here's where the sump is going to go. Look, I already started doing the sump. But there's still all this stuff. Intimidating. Setting up a sump is my worst nightmare. Drowning on a submarine is slightly below at number 2. And there will be some problems setting up the sump once I get started. I'll share that with you in just a little bit. So I won't be setting up the sump today, but there will be a few other things I can do, like clean this baby up. Using a vacuum and picking up all the small dust particles, because who wants dust particles in their tank? And wiping down the glass on the outside panels with some homemade window cleaner. Make sure you spray away from the tank and don't get any on the inside or you'll kill your future fish. I can also get a first coat of paint on. I want the back panel to be as black as midnight, black as pitch. Blacker than the foulest witch. Bonus points to anyone who can name the movie that's from. And here's how black it looks several days later after I put the final coat on. Not too bad.
You will subscribe. Ding ding.
Let's get a leak test going on this thing. It's Custom Aquarium, so you know there won't be any leaks, but still, I mean, this is 435 gallons, so let's make sure there aren't any leaks, you know what I'm saying? This is after the sump has been all cemented in, so I'm filling the tank, which will then overflow into the sump. In true confession here, I did fill the overflow boxes a few days before this, and there was a slight drip coming from where I attached one of the hoses to the box. And that's because I moved it slightly within about 8 seconds of cementing it in. Don't do that. So I sprayed the shit out of it with some Flex Seal, which is like liquid rubber. It's not under pressure, so it should be fine, and I'll be checking anyway though. And no leaks in the tank or sump after the leak test. Perfecto. Hey there, I just had a shipment arrive from Predatory Fins. I'm gonna go ahead and open it, so this is the first time that I'm seeing everyone, but let's get them unboxed and floating. They've got them double bagged, so it's gonna be kind of hard to see, but I'm gonna show you what little you can see, and then I'll float them, and then you'll see them afterwards too. What that is a panda waru, and I had a viewer comment once saying that this would be a great suggestion for the tank that I'm getting. So I decided to look them up. I wasn't really into warus so much at the time, but now I am, by the way, and double so with these guys. And this is the same thing. It's another panda waru. So is this one. Okay, this last one is one that I'm really excited about. I did order 2 of them, but they only had 1, so I'm gonna put him in the tank, even though he's a little bit on the large side and I have some smaller fish in there, but they're supposed to have smaller mouths, so it might not be an issue. It is a true parrot. I lost one panda due to mysterious causes, and the others had fin damage that I thought would heal pretty quickly, but it hasn't. I don't know why, but I still love them. They're in the 180 for now, and my true parrot is called Buck. I mean, he looks like a bug to me, plus he was super expensive, so the name fits that way too since he cost a lot of bucks. Lots of bucks. He's in his hospital tank still. He wasn't eating and he had a sunken belly, so I treated him for parasites. Now he's a gluttonous fiend. Watch him take this pellet out of my hand. He's so cool looking, and he's really friendly. He's always watching me and he isn't shy at all. He'll probably be heading back to the 180 for a while until the new smaller guys get to be less of a bite size for him. The true parrot actually has a huge mouth and he could easily fit most of the new guys in there, just like cramming an entire cheeseburger into my mouth all at once, which could easily happen, by the way. So the true parrot and the pandas will get introduced into the 10-foot tank at a later date. And by the way, if I wasn't already so attached to Zeke and Alcatraz, I think Buck would be my favorite fish. Now on to the next unboxing. Let's get these guys unboxed from Imperial Tropicals. See what we have. Some nice thick styrofoam. Nice warm heat pack, still working. Packing paper. I'm gonna save this one. All right, this one might be hard to see because he's a little bit smaller. He's a rainbow cichlid. This is one that I've wanted for a while. I was actually going to get one for my 180 and decided against it. This one here is my mouth brooding severum. He's gonna be really beautiful when he grows up. Love the severums. And of course I won't be able to have a lot of plants in the tank because I'll eat them. Taking a little chance on this guy because he's a little bit more aggressive than what I'm typically gonna be stocking in the 435, but he is a Jack Dempsey. Wanted one for a long time. One of the most beautiful fish I think there is. A Nicaraguan. Wasn't quite certain about this one. It's not one that was really on my list, but it was available at Imperial Tropicals and it looked like it would fit in quite well, so figured I'd give them a shot. So far they look like they're all very healthy and they were shipped very carefully. Green Terror, my friends. And he's bigger than I ordered too. A lot of these guys are, but he looks like he's considerably bigger. Another one that I'm kind of taking a risk on here, I was planning on maybe putting him in the 180 with some more slightly aggressive cichlids. This Salvini was going to go in there, but I think I can put all of these guys actually in the new tank because it's big enough to where they'll have room to feel at home and at peace and not be so aggressive with each other, but we'll see. I'll be watching. He looks really cool. He's got some color already. This is one that you guys have been telling me to get for a while now. I mean, I always see this in the comments when I'm talking about what fish I'm going to put in the bigger tank that I'm getting, and chocolate cichlid. And from what I know about these guys, they're really cool because they change their colors a lot. They'll look like one fish one day, and then based on their mood, they'll look like a totally different fish. One thing you're gonna have to get used to with me and South American cichlids is that I'm not gonna know how to pronounce half of these things, but I'm gonna give it a shot. the Cyclosoma damaris. And he's a little guy. He's only gonna get to be about 5 inches, but I think he'll be a nice addition to the big tank. You know, have some various sizes in there and aggression levels. And now for the last one, and this is the biggest fish in the box, the wild Columbian Oscar. I've been thinking about getting an Oscar for a long time. For me, they're not the most beautiful fish for sure. I mean, they kind of look ugly, but as far as Oscars go, this wild caught one, this wild Columbian Oscar, is definitely one of the more beautiful ones in my book. He looks different, he's kind of unusual. He's not the typical tiger Oscar that you see everywhere. I think I'm gonna like him a lot, and from what I know, they have just a wonderful personality. Maybe you have an Oscar or other Central American or South American fish. Let me know if you think that they have a lot more personality than most other fish out there, and including African cichlids if you've had them too. Let's talk about the sand I used, and then we'll get onto the lights and rocks. Good aquarium sand will run you about $50 to $100 for a 50-pound bag, and I need about 700 pounds, so you think I wanted to spend about $700 on sand for my tank? No. So with the help from Steve from Aquarium Zen in Seattle, I was able to locate Clean Blast in Tacoma that sells good clean sand that's suitable for aquariums, and it looks just like what I wanted, even more so than the kind specifically sold for aquariums which cost so much. And it was only $15 per bag. But to save $40 shipping per bag, I had to drive almost 600 miles round trip to get it. But that's an adventure, so I'm good with it. Check out my Prius holding 900 pounds of sand. Yeah, I bought a few extra bags just in case. When I got it home, I stirred it up in the bucket with some water, and it wasn't very dirty at all, so I just dumped it right into the tank. I kept piling it on high on the left side because I wanted a kind of riverbed look to it, and my aqua decor will look great with a higher end on one side anyway. Water clarity is a little off, shall we say, but it'll clear up when I add my FX6, which I'll be using as a polishing filter. Let me know what you think of this sand. I think it's incredible, and I think it was a heck of a deal. Thanks again to Clean Blast. Now I'm finally hooking up my lights to this awesome tank. I have 3 AI primes I stole from the 180 and my 23-gallon Episto tank. Okay, that look of frustration is because they don't fit the frame. I've been planning on this forever and now they don't fit. This has a pretty thick frame, so it just ain't working. So I might as well add these high-quality glass lids and get it covered while I'm at it. For now, I'm just adding this strip light. It's a Fluval Sea Marine 3.0. It's a good light and it'll do the job. It's only 4 feet long though, so it doesn't spread the light nearly far enough on the sides. But it'll do for now. I added some extra aqua decor rocks I had lying around that I didn't use in Alcatraz. I wanted to give the new inmates a place to hide if they like. It'd just be way too open otherwise. Oh, and speaking of the inmates, let's get them in here. I always open the bag over a net which is over a bucket so I don't get any of the outside water in my precious tank. You never know if you'll be adding something that could hurt your fish, so just keep your water, your water. Alright, check these guys out. I'll show you the fish again in a minute after they've had a while to settle in. So even though I'm not doing an install video on the sump, let me tell you a few of the things that I love about this Custom Aquarium seamless sump. First of all, it's made of an almost impervious material that you can pretty much slam down on concrete and it's not going to crack or break. That's cool, but it's also modular, so each unit is separate and you can build on it, or if you decide that you don't want a unit, you can take it off. So I'm really loving this seamless sump, and there are a few things you should know if you're on the fence about getting a sump compared to something like a canister filter. You can hide all of your equipment inside the sump. Well, most of the equipment, like my heaters, are all going in here. Then when you need to service any of those pieces of equipment in the tank, or clean the filters, then all you have to do is reach in, open up the cabinet doors, reach in, grab what you need, and clean it. With a canister filter, you have to unhook everything, tote a heavy container around. Another benefit is that you can increase your water volume of the tank drastically. I mean, with FX6s, you're only going to be adding about 5 gallons of water each. So if I had 5 of them on this tank, which would be ridiculous, I would only have 25 extra gallons of water. And with this sump, I have about 80 gallons of extra water. So that's wonderful. And don't forget that having all this space allows you to add massive amounts of biomedia. You're not limited to the small trays of a canister filter. So what I like about this tank, the silicone job they did is beautiful. And you also know that it'll last if you take care of it. I mean, don't be using a razor blade on it or anything. And take a look at this heavy-duty metal frame with reinforced corners. I already mentioned how thick it was, so thick I couldn't even hook up my lights. These top braces are actually removable. I've never heard of anything like this, and it'll be awesome if you need to get something big into your tank, like maybe some aqua decor. Custom Aquariums offers low iron glass, which is ultra clear, right up there with acrylic. And I already mentioned how I love those glass lids. If you use one of their stands, there's a lifetime guarantee on the tank. I used my own stand, but you know, that's okay. I still trust it'll last for the rest of my life. Let me give you a minute just to check these guys out now that they're a bit more comfortable. And the best time to watch them is at supper time.
So unfortunately, my aqua decor is not going to be here for another 2 or 3 weeks. So I have to wait for that. Until then, I'm just going to have to get by with these rocks that are in the tank now. But tell me what you think of these fish. I know they're all super small for a 10-foot long tank, but they're going to get big. And here's your bonus for the week. Don't be stingy with compliments. If you notice something good about someone, like say they're a really good listener, tell them. Something like that can totally make someone's day. But until next time, that's a wrap.